Hi, my name's Andy Walters, and today I'm just going to go over the fitness variables. Okay, so a really good, effective training plan. So what makes a really good, effective training plan for a client? In order to do that, we have to follow some guidelines or certain sets of principles. So the fitness variables comes in a handy acronym. So it's FITT. So FITT. Okay, so what does that stand for? So the first one, F, is for frequency. I is for intensity. One of the T's is for time. And the other T is for type. Hopefully you guys can see that. Okay, so let's go a little bit deeper. So frequency. Frequency is how often. So frequency, how often should we train? Okay, so an effective training plan, we would need to know the frequency, how often the client should train. So for instance, how do I gauge that? So for a beginner, I would say 3 times a week. So how often? So 3 times for a beginner. Now, if someone's a bit more advanced, I would say maybe between 5 and 6 times a week for someone who's more advanced. So advanced would be 5 to 6 times per week. And then on the top end of the scale, you would have an athlete. Perhaps they could be anywhere between 12 and 17 sessions a week, dependent on the sport, of course. Okay, so frequency is how often our clients should train. So intensity. So intensity is how hard they should train. So again, that's how hard they should train. Now, how do you think we gauge that? Well, there's many ways to gauge it. So let's think the first one could be 1 rep max. So 1 RM, okay? So 1 RM, 1 rep max, and that's at the heaviest weight you can lift. And the way we would gauge this in a training plan, like say a strength plan, is we would do a 1 rep max testing day to figure out what the client's 1 rep max of a certain exercise was, like squat or bench. Then we would work within a percentage of that. So their training plan on one day, we could be doing legs, we could be doing squats, and I know that we're going to do a strength day, so maybe I'd want to work between 85% of their 1 rep max. Okay, so what else can I gauge? Well, I could gauge something called RPE. Now, RPE stands for rate of perceived exertion. Now, what does that mean? Well, it works on a scale of 1 to 10. So let's say I'm with a client and they're on the treadmill. I would tell them about the skill first. So I would say, okay, we're going to use the rate of perceived exertion. I'm going to give you a scale of 1 to 10. 1 being that you're just walking. So that's the difficulty. So 1 would be walking, 10 would be running, say, a marathon. How do you feel on that scale of 1 to 10? The client was given an answer, say maybe 5 or 6, or even they could say 8 or 9. And now if that's during a warm-up, I know that maybe we've pushed them a bit too hard. So if they're at 8 in the middle of a warm-up, I could take them down. So the rate of perceived exertion is quite a handy tool to use. Now, what else can I use? So I've also got heart rate. Nowadays, we all have Fitbits or heart rate monitors or Apple Watches. The cardio machines in most gyms will tell you your heart rate. So again, I could plan the intensity around a certain training zone. So I could aim to have the client at a certain heart rate for that session, say a cardio session. And the last one would kind of be speed. So cadence and speed. So if we say speed, and again, that could be if I'm doing a bench press, for instance, I could do 2 seconds lower, 2 seconds lower, 2 seconds push back. Okay, that would be the cadence, the speed. I can change that frequency as well. So, I can change that intensity as well. So what I could do is I could do 5 seconds lower, pause for 2, 1 second raise. Okay, so there's many ways I can change the intensity within a program. Now, time. So obviously time is how long. So what do I mean by that? Well, how long is the session going to go for? So if we think about a cardiovascular session, I could time it. It could be half an hour, 45 minutes, or an hour. Okay, so it could be 45 minutes. Cardiovascular session. Okay. Now, what about resistance? So I could be having a client having a resistance day. Now, one of the ways I could judge the time on that would be through resistance. Resistance would be through sets. And reps. Okay. So, for example, to time a client, it could be, for a strength plan, it could be 6 sets of 6 repetitions. Excuse me. So again, 45 minutes. So for timing of cardio, could be 30 minutes. I would use the time. For resistance, I would use sets and reps. But generally the time is how long the session is going to go on for. And I think we need to be accountable for if the client is sedentary. We need to kind of factor that in, as well as age and the other factors as well. Okay? And the type. So this is basically what type of training. So the type of training, or I like to say the method of training. Okay, so what method of training are we going to use? Are we going to use cardiovascular, or are we going to use resistance training? So the type of training, we could, for instance, say, how would we change the, how would we vary the workout by just using the method of training? Well, let's pick cardio. So let's just say we've got a cardio session, so doing a CV session. I could have someone running. Now, a good way to adapt that and still stay within the training parameter would be to get them on, say, like a rowing machine or maybe a bike. Okay, so we could say move them onto a rowing. Okay, so again, that's another way we could adapt the type of training. What about adapting a resistance session? So resistance session, well, let's say for instance I'm going to do squats. So if I'm having my client squat, I could then progress onto lunges. Or think if I'm doing a shoulder press, so seat to shoulder press, I could then do a lateral raise instead. Okay, so it's still targeting the same muscle groups. Okay, but again, with the type of training, we can vary this as well. So we can mix the training up to make it a little bit more challenging for the client. Okay, so let's recap. So how we look at a strong training plan for a client, okay, a really effective training plan, we take the principles, so the training variables, which are frequency, intensity, time, and type. So frequency, how often that we're going to train. So 3 times a week for a beginner. Intensity, how hard we're going to train. So we can do 1 rep max, the rate of perceived exertion, or heart rate, or changing the cadence or the movement. Time, so how long? Are we going to time the session? Are we going to use sets or reps? And the type. Okay, so the type of training, are we going to use cardio? Are we going to use resistance? Are we going to use machines? Okay, so just to give you an example, what I could be doing is if I'm doing a strength plan for a client, I would be looking, say, for at least 1 to 2 sessions a week per body part. Okay, so per body part, so for the total strength sessions, it could be coming maybe between 4 and 5 training sessions a week. Okay, the intensity, I'm probably for strength looking at 85% of 1 rep max. Then time, so let's think about sets. Maybe I'm going to do 6 sets of each muscle group. So 6 sets of each movement, each exercise. So 6 sets of 6 reps. And also, because it's a strength plan, I'm definitely going to give at least 3 to 5 minutes rest for strength athletes. Okay? That's my little session today. Thank you very much for listening. I do apologise, it's gone on quite long, but thank you for your time. Thank you very much.